Welcome to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers, newbies, and veterans, and everyone in between. We're hosted by M.A. Lee with the assistance of Remy Black and Edie Rooms, all from Writers Inc. Books. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Each episode lasts as long as it takes to fix a quick dinner, drive a short commute, or take a brisk walk. Resources and links are in the show notes. Visit us at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Now, on to this week's episode. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing this morning?
Okay. I'm doing fine.
If you see me looking over here to the side, I'm setting a timer for the meeting. Because we don't need to go over, and that has happened in the past, and Zoom has shut off on us. All right, I got the timer going. And if I look over here, this is my large monitor, and I'm used to looking at it, but you are right here with the camera.
I understand. No problem.
I will try to keep focused on you. So good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm fine. You're O'Neil de Noux. Where are you located?
I'm in a small town called Covington, Louisiana, which is right across Lake Train.
Why? You're glitching a little bit.
Hello?
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yes, I did, but you're glitching just a little bit. It says my
internet
connection is unstable. I've got you on my phone hotspot, so hopefully that will control that from now on. Okay. Why don't you introduce yourself to us in what you write, how long you've been writing, and how you came to writing?
Okay, I'm O'Neil de Noux. I call myself a New Orleans writer because I was born and raised in New Orleans, although I was an Army brat and traveled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I was raised and educated in New Orleans. I write a lot of stuff set in New Orleans, although not all of what I write is set in New Orleans. I have 49 books published. 37 of them are novels, 10 collections, and 16 audiobooks. So it's a lot of stuff.
That's great.
I write, I think to my detriment is I write in too many genres. I'm all over the place. If I would have stuck to just writing police procedurals as I did when I began, or just writing mysteries, I think I would have a bigger following. I have a decent following, but I write historical fiction. I write a lot of mysteries, obviously, police procedurals, private eye stories, private eye novels, and I've written a young adult novel. I'm all over the place. Yeah,
I have to do that because after I finish writing a mystery novel, I need a break. I need something light. So I go and write something else, and then I'm ready to go back into the mysteries and figure out how to kill somebody and that kind of thing.
I consider my mysteries the light stuff. The historical fiction is difficult because it's so. For some reason, my historical novels get out of control, and they just get huge. I will plan them to be a certain length. Like my biggest book is a book called Battle Kiss, which is about the Battle of New Orleans. And it was planned to be about 100,000 words. It turned out to be 320,000 words.
Whoa!
It's huge. And I have other books that started out in the 80,000 words and ended up a lot bigger.
And I thought my book that expanded from 60,000 to 115,000 was a lot. So do you write primarily early American history, like the Battle of New Orleans? That was Andrew Jackson, wasn't it?
Yes, it was 1814, 1815. Yes, I do. I have a book about the American Navy, and it starts in 1805 and goes through the War of 1812. But I also have a novel about World War II. I like to write about the past. Even my mysteries are set in the 1950s and 1940s, although some are more contemporary. the one I'm writing now is contemporary because I prefer the 20th century to the 21st century. I like 21st century medicine and some of the benefits we have, but when it comes to my characters, I prefer them in the 20th century.
Right, I do too. I'm currently writing a mystery story set in New Orleans, in 1925, with
Oh,
the emerging oil industry.
yes.
Is It has helped me set that, but it's just going to be a really short. I shouldn't say short story because I'm aiming for 10 to 12,000 words because I want to put three
Yes.
stories together about that and move from New Orleans to Texas and then move to the Texas coastline. So
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that. The research is killing me because
It's
I
tough.
thought
It
I
really
knew
is.
stuff about New Orleans, but I didn't know anything about Roosevelt Hotel. I didn't know about Broussard's, and so just things pop up and then I go exploring and I spent 2 or 3 hours just being fascinated by what I'm finding. But I'm going like, I should be writing instead of this.
Yes.
Do you find that
Yeah.
your research takes more time
Yes.
that you want, or
Yes.
is it
When I
an
when
interest?
I when I did Battle Kiss, which is here, I got it right here. It's
Oh, great.
about the Battle of New Orleans.
Hmm.
This is the cover. Anyway, Battle Kiss, I accumulated 72,000 words of notes
Whoa.
before I started writing
Yes.
because uh, I was a history major in college, and historiography teaches us that there's no one truth to history because everybody's got their opinion, everybody's got history can. So I had to do a lot of research to hone it down to what I want. But and the bottom line is I'm writing a novel, so I can do what I
Right.
want to do. I
Yes.
could say what I want to say and have put words in characters' mouths that they didn't say,
And it
like the
doesn't matter what the
Jackson.
level of technology is where you are in history, people behave the same way. So you really
Yes,
don't have to.
but thank goodness for the internet. It would have taken me years to accumulate that knowledge,
Mhm.
that information. The book took 2 years to write, so it was a tough one. But some of the others, like my most recent historical novel, uh, is set during the Gilded Age. I wanted to write a Gilded
Ah.
Age novel,
Mhm.
and I started doing research, and it quickly realized there was no Gilded Age in New Orleans because we were doing Reconstruction. So
Right.
I set it in New York State, above New York City, where they had a
Right.
Gilded Age. And the book
Yes.
is called Gilded Time. And it's
Hmm.
set. So I was going to set it in a small town up there. And I started doing research. I said, that's not going to work. So I made up a town. I made up a
Hmm.
city, made up streets, just make up the whole thing. I did the same thing on one of my mysteries where I wanted to set uh, the most of the action is going to be in New Orleans and on a Caribbean island. And I was going to set it on St. Lucia. And then I started research. I said, nope, that's not going to work. So I made up an island. And I just have an island that's called St. Lolita,
Now, do you
which
put that in like a reader's note at the back end of the book? By the way, this is not a real place. You can't go to this place.
I think I did with that one. I'm not really sure. I think I did in both of those that these places aren't real. But no one's ever got a hold of me and said I can't find it. So
So, how did
um,
you first get into writing? I
I
know you
wanted
had
to,
a career and then you started writing after that, I think.
yes, I wanted to write in high school. And I tried to write uh, science fiction short stories because I was a Ray Bradbury fan,
Hmm.
Harlan Ellison, and people like that. And I wrote some terrible science fiction stories. I thought they were good, they were bad. But after I became a police officer and went through police work and became a homicide detective,
Hmm.
I just said, this is what I need to write. And my first several novels are homicide detective novels. They're police
Right,
procedurals.
right.
And so I went down the line until I started writing what I knew. Uh, I wasn't unable to write anything good. And then I
Hmm.
learned.
Right. I think it's fascinating how people transition from a career into writing. It's
Yes.
almost as if we invest ourselves so much in our career that when we retire from it, we find ourselves looking for something still to do that's somewhat related to that, but wakens the creative side of our brain and sends us into new things about that still same career. At least that's what I did.
Well, I learned as I went along. I was mentored by some good writers, including Harlan Ellison, uh, uh, George Alec Effinger. He was a New Orleans writer, really,
Mhm.
really good friend. Chris Wiltz was a New Orleans writer. She still is. The other two have died.
Mhm.
But I was very lucky. But I didn't even realize what I was writing. I was writing police procedurals and mysteries, and I was concentrating on the plots and everything until, a critic said, "You're not writing police procedures and mysteries. You're writing character-driven stories because
Uh,
your characters dominate everything, including your story." And they're right. And I realized that, and I started concentrating more on character
mhm.
because character is the story.
Right.
And so sometimes you just write and then people tell you what you're writing. And
So you talked about the internet being extremely valuable to you for research.
yes,
Do you find yourself wanting to go places to do research? Um,
no. I am almost a recluse. I'm not really one, but we were blown over here to Covington by Hurricane Katrina in
yes.
2005, and I don't travel that much. I don't like to travel. I have though. When I was a kid, I lived in Italy. I lived all over the place with my father uh, when he was in the military. So I have traveled. I have nothing against travel. I just don't tend to travel that much. I'm a
Mhm.
homebody. I really like to stay home and write and do my stuff.
So besides the internet, what technology do you find yourself using that assists you with writing? And what technology have you strayed away from because you think maybe the learning curve is too much or something else?
Well, I don't do any AI. I don't even know what the hell that is.
Hmm.
Artificial. I don't even go there. I
Hmm.
write and we get it published and that's it. I use uh, Macintosh computers. I have two, and I have an iPhone, and I do research and I listen to audio books on the phone, and I download ebooks and read, and I buy books over the internet. So,
Hmm.
uh, but those are I have an iPad. That's about it. But like I said, I don't use AI. I don't do that. And I've found lately that I'm beginning to draw back on my social media stuff
Hmm.
because it's too distracting, it's too
Yes.
divisive,
Yes.
and mostly it's for family. My father was one of 12, my mother was one of 12.
Huge
So
family then.
huge. I have cousins all over the place,
Hmm.
and I hear from them, and I just had one this morning sent me photographs of her mother, who was my mother's sister,
Hmm.
photographs I had never seen of my Aunt Sarah, and that's useful. Otherwise, social media, it's tedious. It is.
Especially now with you go like I go on Facebook and I don't see with the holidays coming up, I see very few posts by my friends and family, and mostly I see ads.
Yeah, a lot of ads. You're right. Yep, they are annoying.
Yes, yeah. What other technology do you find yourself using? Do you use anything to track your words, or do you do that on paper?
No, I keep a word count. When I finish something, I have a spreadsheet that I have all my books listed and how many words are in each book, which surprised me because I've had over 3 million words published
Right.
since 1988 when my first book came out. I never realized that. I thought, what? A lot of books. And that doesn't include the over 400 short stories I've had published.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of short stories published.
Yeah.
And the literary awards that my writing has won have all been on short stories.
Right. So are you traditionally published, or I would think with that output you wouldn't be, that you're indie published?
I'm an indie writer now for my
Mhm.
books. I have a lot of stories in Alfred Hitchcock Mystery Magazine, Ellery Queen
Mhm.
Mystery Magazine, Pulp House Fiction Magazine, which is it's a really dynamite magazine, and a lot of other things. But my books, I started like everyone else with traditionally published books out of New York, paperback
Mhm.
originals. But the experience wasn't good. It was okay, but it wasn't that great. And eventually, I wanted to control my art completely. I want to
Right.
control everything. I want to control the cover, what's
Mhm.
written on the back of the book, the interior.
Mhm.
So I myself and several other writers got together here in New Orleans,
Mhm.
and we have artists, editors, everybody, and we formed a cooperative group,
Right.
and we help each other. We do each other's proofing, we do each other's things like that, and then we each individually publish our own books, and it's just all ours. So everything of my book I own,
Right.
which is larger. You get a much larger royalty from
Mhm.
being an indie writer, and like I said, I control the covers and control everything.
Mhm. I have to apologize to you. I'm tearing up because my allergies somehow have just started to bother me incredibly much, and I apologize for that. Um, so, what else do you use? Do you use a mapping program or anything in order to generate like your city that you made up?
No, what is a mapping program?
I don't know.
No, no,
And somebody
I
mentioned it
no,
once, and I thought, oh,
no.
that sounds
I just
interesting.
I just went and researched the area of New York State where I wanted to place the
Hmm.
fictional city, and I put it near Schenectady,
Hmm.
and I just made up a city. Same thing
Yeah,
with the island. I just put the island out in the Caribbean and just put it there, and it's there.
right. So
And,
you mainly focus things just here. I'm going to write. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to reach out to my co-op when I need something technical, like a
yeah,
cover
we help
design.
each other out. Yes, we do.
Right,
Now, my New Orleans stuff, I don't need to do much research
right.
because since I set it back in time, I
Hmm.
don't have to go and see what the street looks like today.
Hmm.
Because New Orleans has changed a great deal, especially since after Katrina.
Right.
So my newest book that just came out in June is set in New Orleans in 1953.
Hmm.
Now I know what the city looked like then. I know
Right.
where things were and what things were called. So I'll do some research, but not a lot.
Mhm. So, how do you take us through your writing process? How do you actually start? Do you have a seed of an idea, or do you do research, or do you think about a place, and or you have a character that something about that character drives you in order to create more? How do you start with your writing, basically?
Well, at the beginning, I started with a particular murder case, a
Hmm.
story, and I would go from the stories. And my first novels are inspired by cases I worked in
Hmm.
cases around the city. Uh,
Right.
so it started there. And but now that I've been writing so long, I have recurring characters. I have a series with Detective Lastanza, who was a New
Hmm.
Orleans police homicide detective like me, who became a private eye like I
Right.
did, who is now a private eye. Then I have Lucian Kay, who's a private eye, set in New Orleans in the 40s and 50s.
Hmm.
I have John Raven Bowe, who was a New Orleans detective. I have Jacques Dugas, who was a New Orleans detective in the 1890s and
Yes.
1900.
Hmm.
So what I'll do now is I will come up with an idea and I say, which detective should work this?
Hmm.
Should it be set back in 1890? Should it be set in the 40s? Should it be set in the 80s? Or should it be set today? And then I'll fit that character, that story in with that character.
Hmm. Right.
So that's
And
how I
do
do
you
that.
when you get the idea for the story, and then you decide on your character and which detective is going to solve that, do you work on a plotting program, or do you plot the book next, or do you just
No,
start writing and see what happens?
I used to do that. I used to have outlines and plots and stuff like that. It helped me when I started, but somewhere along the line, I just said I don't need this. And then a good friend of mine, James Salas, who's really a phenomenal writer, really guy I look up to a lot. I saw some of his stuff, interviews, and I was talking to him,
Mhm.
and he says, like other writers do, they start with the character, they put him in motion, and then just
Mhm.
go along and see what they do. I
Right.
mean, what I'll do is I'll have an idea of what the story is going to be, what cases they're going to work, or whatever, and then I'll just go and just get the characters in motion and tag along and write, and things crop up that you don't even realize. In Battle Kiss, I had one of the important characters was going to be killed at the battle,
Hmm.
and when I got there, the character wouldn't let me kill him. There's no way. The
How
character was
irritating that was.
the character was so dynamic.
Hmm.
I can't kill this character because we all can't be Larry McMurtry. I mean, when he kills Gus McCrae in Lonesome Dove, and you still have a quarter of the book to go.
Right.
Oh
Yes.
my God, he killed Gus. And
Yes.
yet he is such a fine writer.
Hmm.
You just go along. When you get to the end of the book, you say, why can't there be another 700 pages? I
Right.
mean, I haven't been able to reach that, you know?
Oh, I find that I used to plot, and then it blocked me somehow, and so I
Yeah.
abandoned it completely. And now I just have like a story arc. I know where I'm going to start. I know some things in the middle, not much, but some things in the middle. And then I know where I want my character to be at the very end. But how she gets there is up to her. Um, and so I find that really helpful. And serendipity happens sometimes. Like they were leaving Broussard's and they decided to go in this shop and things happened in the shop. And I'm going like, oh, yes, yes, yes. Totally unexpected. Um, and so I find that very helpful. What do you ever get stuck in the middle? Um,
Yes, I have. But I write my way out of it. I just go back and read what I'm writing and just have something else happen.
mhm.
Uh, Raymond Chandler says throwing a body,
Yeah,
just have somebody else die.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things. But lately, especially with my recent books, with the Lucian K novels and the Lastanza novels, is their home life has become so much more important in their story than just the cases. So, like Lucian K is married to a young woman who's
Hmm.
a songwriter in New Orleans, but
Right,
she's also a lingerie model. She models bras and panties for catalogs like Maison Blanche and DH
right,
Homes department stores. So she has her own life. And what
right,
happens is she started working with him because you need a female operative often. And she's sharp and she's young. And so what I can do is when I get bogged down, I just move to what she's doing
right.
and go on.
So
Excuse me. Yeah. So
do you find yourself writing a plot A and then going back and writing a plot B, and maybe a plot C, or does it naturally weave in
it
as you're
naturally
going
weaves
along?
in.
Right,
It's runs in chronological order.
right. And so, do you write chronologically? Because I do. I have
Yes,
tried to write
I
out a
do.
sequence, and it's more work than it's worth for me because I wind up entirely rewriting entire scenes
Yes.
that I might have touched earlier because I didn't actually know what was going to happen in that scene. I thought I knew what was going to happen, but when I get there to the scene, it goes like, no, no, that was totally wrong. You've got to redo that. So I no longer even try to write out a sequence. I just start at the beginning and go.
Yes. I've
Mhm.
done that sometimes. Uh,
Okay.
I also write stories and books from titles.
Hmm.
I'll just get inspired with a title, say, "Oh, that sounds like a story," and I'll just like my wife inspired a couple of them. For some reason, the movie Death on the Nile was playing on HBO,
Right.
And I kept watching it. Every time my wife would walk in the room, she'd say, "Oh, not that again." And then she walked in and she said, "What, Death on Denial again?" And I heard Death on Denial rather than
Right.
Denial. And I told her, that's a story. And I
Mhm.
wrote a story, and it wound up being in the best mystery stories of the year for that year, besides being published. So sometimes I get, I see a title or a word. I also collect names.
Yes.
See someone's name and I'll collect it. I'll collect names from the Olympics because if I
Mhm.
want a name from someone who's from Liechtenstein, hey, there's a guy. Don't tell me that's not Liechtenstein. There was an athlete named that from Liechtenstein, and I'll do that. You know.
Right. Yeah. Well, when you finish with your draft, how seriously do you have to revise? Do you find that
Okay,
revision is
a lot. The way I write is it's I didn't invent this, of course. Other writers have told me this
Mhm.
is to get it written and then get it right. And
Right?
so I write quickly,
Yes.
first draft, and then I go back and do a second, and I go back and do a third. And it isn't until the third draft that I give it to my wife, who is a writer and she was a publisher
Mhm.
and an editor, and let her look at it. And then other writers in my group look at it. And then usually I go through 5 or 6 drafts before
Right.
I think it's finished.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's the way I do it. And it just works for me.
So, do you have to have images before you as you write? Because I find sometimes that it's very helpful to have a series of photos for a place, a snare.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes I'll get pictures from online. In
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans, I've had a lot of. When I was in the Army, I was an Army photographer.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I did go in the Army for 3 years in the middle of all this. I was in college. I got drafted during the Vietnam War,
Oh.
but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to Vietnam. I was lucky. I stayed stateside, but my
Mm-hmm.
MOS is I was a photographer, so I learned photography very early. So I've been taking pictures of the city and all my life. So I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of pictures. Plus, I get inspired. Like if I want to have uh, uh, a female character, I'll find a photograph online.
Mm-hmm.
That's the face,
Right.
and I will have that picture up. Say, yeah, that's what she looks like, or that's what he looks like. I'll get a baseball player or a football player,
Mm-hmm.
or someone else. So okay, that's what he looks like. But yes, I do use images. Yes.
So I've got uh, 3 minutes on the timer, and Zoom will give us 10 more minutes past that. Why don't you talk about a book that's going to be coming out soon or that has just released? The air date for this episode will probably be April, somewhere around mid April.
Well, my newest book came out in June. It's called Golden Dandelions. It is that's a photograph
Mm-hmm.
taken at a New Orleans cemetery. I took it. And it's a private eye novel set in
Mm-hmm.
1953 where Lucian K works the cases and his wife Alize works with him.
Mm-hmm.
He also has a daughter, and the daughter is from a liaison that occurred right at the beginning of World War II. He had an
Right.
affair with a young woman who was a
Mm-hmm.
waitress. He was a cop. She was a waitress. Cliches. And he didn't even know the little girl existed.
Uh,
And one day he comes home to his apartment house where his office is, and she's standing outside with a suitcase.
mm-hmm.
She's like 7 years old, and she says that are you Lucian K? She says, well, I'm your daughter. And he what? This guy's been a swinging bachelor all of his life.
Right. Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, he's got a little girl, and she has her birth certificate. And he looks at it. Yep, and he can see her face. That's his little girl. And
Mm-hmm.
his life completely changes. He just all of a sudden, no matter what, he is going to take care of this little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And so she really becomes a force in his life. So I have the 3 storylines, and especially in Golden Dandelions, we see a lot of Jeannie, the little girl, the
Mm-hmm.
wife, and Lucian all and it's their home life too. And I do that with all these books now with Lucian. You get to see everything. You don't just see the police, the detective work. You see everything.
Right. Because he's a full person.
Right.
He's not
I want him
just
to be right, and I want it to be move on. When she's in fifth grade, then she's in sixth grade, and then the little girl's in seventh grade, as they go down the line. Now, what I don't do is I don't follow the cliches. Lucian Kate is never knocked out in any case. He doesn't wear a hat. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't have to pawn his gun every time. He doesn't live in a seedy apartment with a desk where he has, a fifth of booze in the bottom drawer. He's not a drunk. He's a regular guy, but he's a detective. Right. He does detective work. I just don't want to go through the cliche. Oh, another drunken detective. Oh my God, we see that so much.
Yes, and I think people get tired of the cliches.
Oh, I do. That's for sure.
They might be, yes, definitely. They might be intrigued by the idea of a hard-boiled detective, but then you get into it and people, I know for me, it would be somewhat depressing to see that kind of life over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I see that when I get audiobooks to listen to, when the detective starts boozing it up the first scene. Oh, gee, another one of these, huh?
And you wonder, how can his mind work to solve a mystery or work out these clues if he's so hungover all the time, or he's so messed up with alcohol?
I know. Yep. Yeah. What happened is back in the 20s and the 30s, and they started doing that, and people just copied them. And I want my character to be unique.
Right. How long would you say it took you to write that book, from the original idea to the publication?
Well, from the original idea to the first draft took 4 months. And to publication took a while because I go through the different drafts.
Right.
I go through, and usually when I finish the second draft, I start another book.
Right.
And then I let it sit. And then when I get a break in the other book, I'll go back and reread that one. So it takes a while. It usually takes a year from when I start to write the book to when it's ready to be done, to be published. But it only took 4 months to write that one. Didn't take that long.
So after you finish the second draft of it, you let it sit for a little bit and you go on to something else.
Sometimes I go on to short stories because I write short stories.
I can see that better because it lurks in my head constantly, and I don't want to be dealing with it constantly. There's something about checking off the box that says, okay, completed. I can go on to something else now.
Yeah.
What are you currently working on?
I'm working on a new Lastanza novel. Lastanza is my first detective. He was a homicide detective. He's now a private eye. And I'm working on the 11th book in that series.
Right.
And he's just working. What he is by this point in his career, he's stopped being a private eye. He's retired. He's semi-retired because he married a wealthy girl, wealthy young woman. So he doesn't have to work. But the cases keep coming at him. Like in this book, he's just minding his own business, and an old friend needs help on a case. And while he's in the office interviewing the old friend, a new case comes in, and it's a murder case, and he gets intrigued. So even though he's semi-retired, he's working in the cases. So he's doing that. His wife is a successful professor, and she's, as I said, she's independently wealthy, so he doesn't have to work. But he does it to annoy people in the agency because his wife and they own the detective agency, and all of his old buddies from when he was a cop are the ones that run it. They're in charge. They're doing, and he'll just come in and mess everything up. And they go, you can't fire him. He owns the damn thing. So it gets to be kind of funny, and he gets to be, but he gets to be selective in the cases he works. So that's the new one. He's an old friend asks for help on a case, And then while he's sitting there, a murder case comes in. Oh, all right, we'll do something on that too. It's an
Do you have a
unsolved.
working title for that yet?
I never give my titles out
Good
until
idea.
the book is in print. And I
Right.
do that because I've had 2 titles, not stolen, but I made announcements about them. And coincidentally, someone else that I knew published a book with that title.
It just
So,
happened that way.
you
Yes.
you can't copyright a title. So I have a title, but I don't discuss it.
Okay.
Golden Dandelions, nobody knew the title until it came out.
Right.
You know?
So Golden Dandelions is your most recent release.
Yes.
We have less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Well, all of my books are at Amazon.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the paperback originals and the ebooks and the 16 audio books.
Mm-hmm.
You can go there and search for that. Go to my website. My website lists everything, and you can click on them and buy the books.
Right.
And my website is my name, O'Neil de Noux, altogether.com. .com. That's it. So
And
that's
I'll have that in the show notes for
Good.
people to find as well.
Yeah, and that's the way to find the stuff. And I suggest you go to the website because you find out which books go with which series. I mean, I have so many things. I have a book called Slick Time, which is a caper novel. I mean, I've got all kind of stuff.
Right. Well, it sounds extremely intriguing. I will have to check those out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My phone just started talking to me. Siri thought I was talking to her.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers at all levels, hosted by Emma Lee from Writers Inc. Books, assisted by Remy Black and Edie Runes. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Music is licensed through Audio Jungle, called Background Music Loop. Its creator is Alexander Polishchuk, known on Audio Jungle as Plastic 3. The music comes in different iterations. Show notes and resource links for this and other episodes can be found at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Write to us at winkbooks@aol.com when you have questions, comments, and speculations. We will try to answer you as quickly as possible. By the way, we will not mind your email address. That's rude. If you find value in our content, share with your writing friends or write a review. We're small beans here without the advertising budget of the big peeps, and you can make a difference. And whatever occurs, write on.